Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome to another fresh edition of your number one program on television, Money Radio. It's a program where we discuss and review front page stories and inside page stories as well on our sister publication, business newspaper, National Economy. My name is Winnie Faliboko, and I hope you had a wonderful, exciting holidays. And we're still on today is still part of the holiday season. I is wishing you a happy holiday. And as usual with me in the studio is the editor of National Economy, Kingsley Ali. Kingsley, thank you so much for being. Kingsley is an in-house analyst and he'll be also reading through more discussions on the stories on the national economy. And without wasting much time, let's have national economy on our screen and let's see what the weekly business paper is saying this week. National Economy says federal government auto gas conversion scheme in a limbo 14 months after. Federal government's auto gas conversion scheme in a limbo 14 months after. It should be recalled that in February 2022, the federal government rolled out the scheme to reduce the transportation sector's reliance on premium motor spirits (PMS) as fuel. In the framework, the government explained that with abundant gas reserves of about 206.53 trillion cubic feet, a population of about 200 million people, and the enactment of the Petroleum Industry Act (PIA), which eliminated the continuous absorption of petrol subsidy, it was now vital to deploy auto gas. But we, the national economy, is asking, what happened? This is 14 months after that beautiful policy was signed into law. Kingsley, this is your headline story on the national economy today.
Yes. I'm beginning to think that government maybe initially it had good intention to see what could be done, especially in the case of the regulation of the downstream petroleum sector, that will eventually, and again with the passage of the PIB, remember, government was also looking at
PIB not translated to PIE.
PIE. So government was also looking at a way of ameliorating the suffering of Nigerians, because the moment subsidy is eliminated, of course, the nurses that are PMS, the prices of PMS will go up, and there was this alternative. And the alternative is that if you have a natural gas reserve of about 206.53 trillion cubic feet of gas, then the best option is to just harness what you have.
Exactly. I'm just waiting for you to just throw at least background it first, because my question that I've always asked is, we have so much reserve, like you pointed out in the report, we have so much, over trillions, hundreds of trillions of gas reserves. Then why are we not harnessing it? For our own advantage.
Yes, it was even good a thing that at the time they mooted the idea. Not only that it was just an idea mooted, they went ahead to set up, put in place implementation stages for this thing. Going by the advantages this holds.
Yes.
Number one, it has this ease of deployment. It has lower capital requirement. Then of course you look at also the existing in-country volumes, like I've mentioned, you have 206.53 trillion cubic feet of gas. Okay. And then also, we're also looking at the time, local market commercial structure, for this product that relies heavily on the Naira. That means we will not have issues with exchange rate. So these were things that, government they look at it, say it will really be to our own advantage. In some other climes, like if you even go to Benin Republic, most of the vehicles now goes on CNG. Petrol is something that's already been phased out already. So they felt it was good we started something like that. But then here is the implementation stage where they were talking about. They were saying that in the first 36 months, the idea is to convert 1 million vehicles, set up 1,000 refueling centers. That was
beautiful ideas.
Beautiful ideas, yes. So people felt elated that, government could even think in this direction. Then, where they decided, it's a stage-by-stage thing, that in the first 18 months, it will be 500,000 vehicle conversions. And they plan to set up 580 refueling stations that will be fully equipped by the original equipment manufacturers. There were about five original equipment manufacturers that were contracted to make sure that these conversions really happened and happened really fast. People were enthusiastic. Then they also were looking at, okay, fine, for the year 2022 proper, so we have entered 2023. The idea is that let's look at the third stage of that implementation is, let's look at how, if it's even 200,000 vehicle conversions, these vehicles will include all the tricycles, all the motorcycles, all the buses, mini buses, and all the rest of them. These were good plans, in line with the national gas policy. But then all of a sudden, we realize that between then and now,
No single car.
no single car. In fact, a survey was conducted across the nation. More than 100 filling stations, more than 200 filling stations didn't have one vehicle conversion center. No refueling, no nothing. So the question is, why did government come up with something like this and it's not going to implement? So this is why I'm beginning to think also, is it going to go the way of Ajaokuta Steel Complex? Ajaokuta, there was so much hype about it.
No, this national gas policy, at the end of the day, who is supposed to be in charge to drive it, to ensure implementation?
Well, the Minister of State for Petroleum, he was one on the driving seat of this policy, because it falls under his purview.
Yes.
But guess what? The man himself has gone back to Bayelsa State to contest for governorship.
But prior to this time, because we're talking about 14 months after.
Yes.
14 months, before it got to 14 months, has it not been, asked questions or as to where are we? Asking him questions of the way, what is happening to the project or to the policy?
I think if you notice the way they have been going about it, it's they will always be the ones to call for press briefings. They didn't throw their doors open for people to walk in and interrogate what was going on. So as usual, there's a press briefing maybe when he met with stakeholders. At the time, the Minister of State for Petroleum, Silva, he met with stakeholders. The press were invited. They did the coverage. It was always, that kind of stage they always love to set for these things. There was no opportunity to, let's gauge what has been going on. Let's see what has been going on. Because you are going to remove subsidy. Apart from the usual noise that have been made about it, where they claim they went and borrowed 800 million, about 308.
And not because it would have been so useful now if Nigeria had actually implemented this Nigerian gas conversion policy as you have on your cover today, because it would have helped to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal, the effect that is going to have the situation whereby maybe some will already be converted. You understand? So they will not be heavy dependent. So, but actually, why is it that the federal government, not even now, even prior to this administration, we have beautiful policies in place, but implementation is always the problem? Why is this so?
I once, remember we once agreed here that until you put technocrats on board, these things will always happen. Politicians will go there and do their thing. When you bring in a technocrat, he knows what to do. He's not there to play. He's not interested in becoming the next governor of the state. He's not even interested in getting the next ministerial appointment. He just wants to come, do his work, and get away. Remember the time Obasanjo deployed these guys, and he saw what happened. Jonathan also did the same. The Agangas of Olusegun Agangas of this world, Akinwumi Adesina's of this world, Lamido Sanusi, former CBN governor. These were good hands that were deployed to just help the economy. So, but this time around, you notice that practically you have politicians all over the whole place. No, they don't really, to them, this is just about the noise you make. And the painful aspect of all these things is that, you see, the monies that are voted for those things, nobody accounts for them.
Nobody accounts for it.
As we are talking now, nobody's mentioning about this national gas, policy anymore. The monies that have been voted before, approved before, nobody is going to ask what happened to this money. We have not seen anything on ground 14 months after. What has happened? Nobody is going to ask. Of course, the Minister of State now is busy in Bayelsa. He wants to be the next governor. This kind of thing is not what will continue.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. But let's go on a break. When we come back, we have so much to talk about on your number one business paper in national economy. Don't worry, we just stay tuned.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back. Just in case you're just joining us, the program is National Economy, where we discuss and review number one's business newspaper is a weekly national economy. My name is Winifred Joba. With me in the studio is an in-house analyst, Kingsley Ali. Kingsley, thank you so much once again. Now, before we went on break, we were deliberating on the Nigerian gas policy, which was enacted in 2022 just for vehicles conversion to gas, which incidentally would have taken the hit of this proposed fuel subsidy removal towards the twilight of this administration. And the caption cover is federal government's auto gas conversion scheme in a limbo 14 months after. 14 months after, nothing has been heard or done, seem to be done about national gas policy conversion. Now, Kingsley, what I am always wondering about is the fact that now a new administration is coming into place. Does it mean that as the administration is handing over to the incoming one, they don't hand over all these policies that they have enacted or they have signed and hand it over that, look, this is where we stop? Because we're also having this issue of this in aviation sector now, which is winding down. They had a partnership with Ethiopian Airlines in order to float Nigerian Airlines, and the agreement has already been signed. But fortunately, the case is in court. As indigenous airline owners said no to that, so they went to court, and that is what is going to happen at the end of the day. So what happens when the incoming administration, president-elect, assumes office? Is it that because at the end of the day, you see that they don't follow, the government is supposed to be a continuum, but you see a situation whereby the government will come, the new government of the day will come, and going to do its own thing without recourse to what where
what's on ground.
What's on ground.
From what we can see now, it will appear
because look at this national gas policy. A lot of money has gone into it already, so the money will just go down the drain.
Yes, it will go down the drain. It has always been like that.
So what is happening? Is it that they are not handing over properly?
It's not the issue is that in fact we should even be asking now the incoming administration, what is it going to inherit?
Of course, debts, of course.
Debts.
We have been saying it that
yes, so what are they handing over to them? Deficits.
Yes.
That is all. Where do we start? Where do we even begin? The issue is that when you look at all these uncompleted projects, and the question is that the next incoming administration may not even want to continue because of the bogus nature of these things. And the monies that have been frittered away along the line. And of course, there will be no probe because they don't probe. Are you getting me?
Yes.
Because
they don't probe.
They don't probe.
They don't probe. They will always say, "Oh, this how much was sent," but nothing is done about it. Because I remember just like what you said when President Olusegun Obasanjo was there, he did say even to the hearing of the then Works Minister Anthony Aneni. He said, "See how much was allocated for land and for the roads for rehabilitation and uploads, and the roads are still as bad as ever.
Bad as ever."
And he heard it. Everybody heard it. But there was no proof.
No
And that was how
proof.
the matter died. You only brought in another
The matter
minister.
will always die natural
Yes.
death because
We also heard during Obasanjo's money how much was budgeted for power sector.
yes,
And up to now, no proof.
No proof.
The National Assembly will sit down and say, oh, see how much went down the drain. And that is the end of it.
you
Can
have
we
a compromise
continue just the
because
way
you have
we
a
are?
compromised National Assembly. If you understood the politics of this National Assembly, who becomes the Senate president,
Even
deputy
the
Senate
president himself.
even
The
the
president will
president
only just
yes,
lament,
Lament.
we are yet there's no political will
No political will.
to do things right.
yeah,
Why is
what
that
is
so?
yeah, because it is in the system, and that is why this system needs to be overhauled. It is in the system. You know, when you have a system that accommodates such impunity that nobody can question something that is not clear, that's the system of impunity. I don't understand. It beats my imagination. You know, the last time we were here, we were discussing about if you are going to remove subsidy, and you went and you borrowed this 308 something billion, and then you are telling us that this money now you have identified 50 million is for 50 million households.
$800
Then
million.
yes, $800 million. Then further again, you now came down and said out of this 50 million for the first batch, it's now 10 million households. Then giving a breakdown of how you're going to share $800 million, who translates about 382 billion. You are telling us that it's 5,000 naira per each household for 6 months. Can't you see there's a lot of incoherence in what they were saying? Things are not really adding up there. Nobody has questioned that. So what happens to the rest of the money? The administration is in the less than 37 days from today, this administration will be in the past.
Yeah,
Nobody will mention anything. Nobody has questioned that. So it's a government of impunity. People do things and they get away with it. Like I mentioned here, when you run a command economy, that is what you get. You know, you don't even allow the experts to do their job. You just how you want it. What is the motive? How do because I can't understand this. What it simply means is that the incoming regime, though the man now, Tinubu, who now we are told, you know, from what is happening, is likely to be sworn in May 29. What he has said is also is going to remove fuel subsidy. Okay, no problem. We all love that because we can't continue
The way we are,
the way
people
we
stealing
are,
money under the
stealing
guise of
money,
fuel subsidy.
fuel subsidy and all the rest of them. But again, if you're going to remove it, what are the palliatives in place? It is obvious that this regime has fared woefully in putting in place things that will ameliorate the conditions of Nigerians when this subsidy eventually goes. So you don't have these vehicles who still run on petrol. That's obviously. National gas policy, despite the fact you have 206.53 trillion cubic feet of gas that you could harness, you cannot use them.
Now, this is a matter that also gives me wonderment. I think about it that we have so much gas reserve, just
Yes.
like we have crude oil, and yet we cannot have it. We don't have the workforce, the manpower to actually harness this big gas
Yes.
reserve, gas reserves for our own use. Why is this so?
Corruption.
Even domestic gas is so high, astronomically
is
high.
corruption.
You go to the market, you are buying the gas for about 11,000. The other time I bought 12 kg.
You know, I told this question. You know, I told you advantages this gas holds over fuel. You know, the ease of deployment
Yes.
is comparatively lower capital requirement, you know. Then, of course, you know, look at the in-country volumes.
Then we pride ourselves as
existing
having
in-country volumes.
having good brains, best brains. Why is it that we've not been able to have
They
the
will
best
not use
brains?
them.
Instead, we are looking for expatriates.
No,
And meanwhile,
no.
all these are oil majors. They are not interested again in
They
helping us to-
will not use those good brains. They are not
Many
interested.
great brains are not coming forward. That is what I'm saying.
It's not as though they are available.
But I heard that it's capital intensive. So
They are
why
many
don't-
of them, if you check in the past administrations we've had in this country, many of the best brains that were actually driving the government of the time, people like Okonjo-Iweala, like we've mentioned before, and all those.
No, I'm just talking
These
about
ones-
the gas sector itself,
Yes.
harnessing it. How come, our own indigenous companies are not coming out?
No, there has to be a policy. You can't just come out and start doing anything you like. It's about policies and the implementation of those policies. Do you know when you have petroleum PIA, Industry Act, it's a policy now that now paves way for subsidy to live. It's about policies. What policies have you put in place to encourage them? Now, if you're talking of the regulation of the downstream sector, this has to happen as well. But there's supposed to be a policy,
Yes.
because if you call a national gas policy, it has become a policy.
Yes.
But you should be seen to be driving it. You can't come up with a policy and you are on the back seat. You should be at the front seat where you're driving the policy. But all of a sudden, we are seeing a lot of unseriousness, because if you're supposed to be driving the policy, at least we know we have 37 days more to go. To just go. You shouldn't be telling us at this point in time you are not in Bayelsa where you want to contest for governorship.
The minister that's supposed to be telling us how
Yes,
we
he's not interested
he's
anymore.
now in the field for
Yes.
number one position in Bayelsa.
It's
Now,
unfortunate.
just before I ask you for the way, let me just quickly do a rundown of some of the stories we have on the national economy today. And on the cover, we have, why does fraud exist, especially in banking? Why does fraud exist, especially in banking? Of course, Nigerians have seen what happened during this cash policy design. So many people are still battling to get their money back through the transfer of money, and it's not be easy. Cost inefficiency as Nigeria loses 130 billion naira to cargo diversion. VAT increase may balance Nigeria's fiscal position. The story is on page 12 of national economy. And still on national economy, we'll move over to the page 3 of the paper, and that is the editorial. Editorial says cooperative society's role in economic growth. Cooperative society's role in economic growth. That is the editorial of national economy. And of course, there are also some new inside pages. Cost inefficiency. Nigeria loses 130 billion naira to cargo diversion. We have other stories inside pages. We have some column, combating hunger, a call to action on individuals, businesses and government. Combating hunger, a call to action on individuals, businesses and government. We also have another one, Africa stuck in the gorge between trade and economic development. Africa stuck in the gorge between trade and economic development. And of course, the main story, why does fraud exist, especially in banking? That is a whole new stories that we really don't have time to trash, because it's huge. Kingsley, don't you think so?
It is.
Why fraud? Of course, we also have insiders too. Some banking staff have also gone in the way of how do I put it now? They are the ones that are giving information out.
Yes.
So we also have stories on the inside pages. We have science and technology, television, new innovation for industrialization. Science and tech television, new dimension in innovation for industrialization. Just before we go, we are looking at the back cover, the back page, of national economy, which is the analyst. Overwhelming poverty in Nigeria. Overwhelming poverty in Nigeria. That's the back column of the analyst on national economy. So we are, just before we go, Kingsley, now, what is the way forward?
The way forward is that this Mr. Tinubu, should do well to make sure that he gets the right people managing these key sectors, so that the country can experience some little ease on life. At the moment now, all these kind of minders around him will not help the economy. We need serious-minded people, experts, technocrats. We need to bring them on board. Let us hold him by his word, where he said the election campaigns are over. He's not going to look at anybody's face because you helped him to campaign and all. He wants to get people who are really good at what they do. So we expect that for the only thing he can do is that this is what needed to be done.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, this is where we end today's Money Radio on Leadership Television. For more stories on the national economy, just log on to their website. www.nationaleconomy.com. Until we come your way again, same time, same station. I remain Winifred Ubebo. See you. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.